Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Dementia Friendly Business Training for Restaurants. This training is provided by Age Guide Northeastern Illinois. The objectives for today's training are to review dementia by going through some key definitions as well as signs and symptoms of dementia. Discuss the challenges that are uniquely for restaurants. Describe responses, strategies, and practices restaurants can use, and to explore what being a dementia friend really means. So, we are just going to start off with some context around dementia. You should have already learned this already in the module for understanding the basics, so we'll just quickly review it. Remember that dementia is just a general umbrella term for disorders that are categorized by chronic impairment of the brain's mental process. It often affects things like a person's memory, thinking, decision-making, and ability to do everyday activities. It is also important to note that dementia is a long-term degenerative disease. Within the dementia category are a variety of terms used to define specific types of dementia. The top 4 most common types of dementia in order are Alzheimer's disease, vascular dementia, dementia with Lewy bodies, and frontotemporal dementia. The very last type of dementia on the list to the right is mixed dementia. Now, this is exactly what it sounds like. It is defined as a condition in which a person has more than one type of dementia. Symptoms and signs can differ depending on the type of dementia. Again, you should have already seen this before in the previous training module. But some common signs and symptoms include communication difficulties, wandering, losing things, frustration, repetition, poor judgment, unacceptable behavior, and confusion. Despite these symptoms, a person with dementia is still a valuable contribution to their community, and they are still a person. This disease does not diminish that. Within the restaurant business, there are some unique situations you may find yourself in when interacting with people with dementia. The first category of challenges is relative to the environment. People with dementia are often sensitive to loud noises and large crowds. They often can get overstimulated, especially if the restaurant is a new place that they have never visited before. There is a strong possibility of them feeling overwhelmed. The second set of challenges is technology. As you all know, technology is a huge part of our world today, so it is very important to be aware of these. Technology poses an uncertainty to people with dementia because they may not know how to use it. This consists of things such as online phone reservation systems, electronic menus, electronic payment systems. Especially because of the pandemic, such things as the QR code to scan for menus has become more and more common. So it's just beneficial to be aware that the challenge exists. Next, we have accessibility challenges. This includes things relative to mobility issues that overall may result in trouble navigating through the space. A strong example of this is not having enough room between tables for older adults to walk through. And then, of course, we have challenges in regards to the individual person with dementia. The person with dementia may have trouble interacting with staff members at the restaurant, trouble ordering food or even remembering what they ordered, difficulty understanding the check, and/or even forgetting to pay. The challenges listed on this slide are not by any means all-encompassing. There are a variety of other challenges that you may encounter within your restaurant business. These are just a few common examples. Now we are going to pivot our lens just a little, because for every person with dementia, a range of 10 to 12 additional people are affected. Included in that 10 to 12 are most certainly the caregivers for those with dementia. Caring for a person with dementia can be very difficult, and the concerns that caregivers have often diminishes the dining experience. Therefore, it is crucial for restaurants to be aware of these concerns so they can work to better serve caregivers and their care recipients with dementia. Wandering was already mentioned earlier in this presentation when we were reviewing signs and symptoms. Caregivers are rightly worried that their care recipient with dementia will wander away from their given table, thus getting lost or possibly even exiting the restaurant completely. The second most common concern of caregivers is not having ample enough space. Caregivers often assist with activities of daily living, which includes eating. A restaurant is not accessible for a person with dementia and their caregiver if there is not enough space for the caregiver to perform their assistive responsibilities. For instance, not having room to sit beside their care recipient with dementia and feed them if needed. Having handicap parking and designated parking lots is crucial for caregivers and their loved ones with dementia. It is extremely difficult for caregivers when they have to consider whether or not their loved one will need to walk a far distance in order to just get to the restaurant. Lastly, there is a caregiver concern of judgment. This one is not necessarily unique to just restaurants, but to other environments as well. Caregivers are often hesitant to bring their care recipient with dementia out in public because they are worried and/or embarrassed about what others might think. This includes reactions and judgment from staff, as well as other customers within the restaurant. It is especially concerning when the person with dementia has a symptom of unusual or inappropriate behaviors. Now that we have talked about the challenges and concerns within the restaurant environment, it is important that you implement strategies and practices to address them. So, we are going to start off by reviewing communication strategies that you can all use when interacting with a person with dementia. The first one is to be respectful. As I mentioned earlier on the training, a person with dementia is still a person. They have a right to be treated with respect and dignity. A huge tip in being respectful is to avoid talking past them. This applies when a caregiver, family member, or someone else is with the person with dementia. Talking directly to them and not on behalf of them to others around make them feel valued. The second strategy is to be patient. Let them take their time, whether that is taking their time walking up to the table or taking time ordering what they want to eat. It is important to exercise patience and not to pressure them to hurry up. Next, we have the strategy of offering support, which connects to being patient. If communication with them is difficult, which is the case sometimes, just offer encouragement. Let them know that you are trying to understand them and listen. Give them that reassurance that goes a long way into making them feel welcome and comfortable within your restaurant. The last communication strategy we have on the slide is not to argue. This is very critical when interacting with older adults with dementia. Do not fight with them, criticize them, or correct them. They become very defensive very quickly. If there is something they believe and it's incorrect, it is almost better to just go with the flow and let them believe whatever it is. In addition to all the communication strategies we just touched on, there are also some best practices that can be easily implemented in your restaurant. The first is to wear name tags with large fonts so that people with dementia can easily read them. Similarly, it is important to provide accessible menus that are printed with large fonts and pictures. Potentially, providing an alternative quiet dining area people can access upon request is also very beneficial. This way, both the person with dementia and their caregiver can eliminate the concern of loud noises, loud music, and crowded dining rooms. Another option is just to provide specific dining times for older adults if possible. This practice has been more and more common because of the COVID-19 pandemic. For example, I know a grocery store that has implemented additional hours for older adults to shop, so they are not exposed to very many crowds, whether that's an hour before opening or an hour after closing. When checks and bills are given, restaurants may want to consider adding the suggested gratuity on there already. Sometimes people with dementia have a hard time calculating an appropriate amount of gratuity themselves. This option gives them just one less thing to stress about. In regards to the environment, there are many things a restaurant can do to make their business dementia-friendly. First is to display large signs and other navigation cues that help the person with dementia know where the key areas are, such as signs for the restroom. It is also critical to ensure a spacious environment, which we have briefly touched on already. Along the same lines, providing plenty of lighting so that older adults with dementia can adequately see where they are going is another great practice. And then lastly, avoiding flooring that is slippery or uneven, because that can increase the fall risk for someone with dementia. And then lastly, avoiding flooring that is slippery or uneven, because that could increase the fall risk for someone with dementia. As you complete this training module, I encourage you all to view the additional resources in the PDF download on the Age Guide Learning Center or in the description below if you are watching on YouTube. These resources will aid you and your business in your efforts towards the dementia-friendly initiative. Please feel free to download, print, keep, and share the handouts. Thank you for your commitment and conscious effort in caring for people living with dementia in the communities that you serve. Upon completion, a follow-up letter, certificate, and dementia-friendly window cling can be provided to your business. Please share this training far and wide to the other colleagues and other organizations in your network.